great agenda ahead of us today. I'd like to welcome the viewing audience as well as our studio members. We have a very busy meeting today because today is our humorous speech and table topics contest, and we have a number of fantastic contestants today. So with no further ado, I would like to bring up our contest chair, Laura Lee Gayfield, to give more directions about the contest.
Thank you, Darren. Fellow TV Toastmasters, our guests here at the studio and at home. Twice a year, Toastmasters hosts contest. Our fall contest is what we have going on currently. And the two contests that you will be seeing today are the Humorous Speech Contest. 5 to 7 minutes to tickle your funny bones is what the contestants have. They will be judged, and first, second, and third place will be awarded to those who are judged for first, second, and third place. First place winner from Humorous Speech Contest will move on to the Area 53 contest to represent the Club TV Toastmasters at that contest and hopefully move on and up from there. Today I would like to introduce our contest Toastmaster, the lovely Sheila Mudd Baker. Sheila, Mrs. Toastmasters today.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Well, I am excited. This is such an exciting thing to have humorous speeches. Toastmasters love to laugh. I think everybody loves to laugh. But in Toastmasters, we devote a contest every year just for humor. And our 5 to 7 minute contest that we have today has 5 contestants. And the first person who will be speaking today is Kormelink. A funny thing happened on the way to Alzheimer's. Kormelink.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and our most welcome guest. A funny thing happened on the way to Alzheimer's. Dr. Richard Taylor was a psychologist who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at the age of 58 and had to give up his practice. He has written a book, which is an excellent book, on Alzheimer's between the ears, living with it between the ears. And unfortunately, there is no set pattern for a person with Alzheimer's. We are all individuals, we have all learned individually, and our Alzheimer's is individual. Richard wants to know, why was it? Before I had Alzheimer's, and I would have discussions with the family, sometimes I was right, sometimes they were right. Sometimes they were wrong, sometimes I was wrong. But now that I have the Alzheimer's, why is it that I'm always wrong even when I'm right? And they're always right even when they're wrong. So Alzheimer's is an individual issue. There are 2 major issues that come up all the time with people with Alzheimer's. And one is the eating issue. They either say, they could get up right from the table and say, "Oh, I'm starved. They never feed me." And you don't argue with them that you just had lunch. You just go fix them another half a sandwich or give them something, and if they eat it, okay, and if they don't, okay. But they always seem to be hungry. Now, there was one man at a nursing home that would not eat meat, hadn't eaten meat for 30 days. And one of the area people that came around and said, "I'll get him to eat meat." They said, "Oh, he hasn't eaten any for 30 days. I'll get him to eat meat." She knew he loved chocolate. So she took that chocolate syrup and she covered that meatloaf with the chocolate syrup. And when she handed it to the guy, she said, "I'm a new cook, and they told me you would give me an honest opinion, and I just baked this birthday cake, and I want you to tell me what it tastes like." So he eats, and the chocolate tastes pretty good, and then he gets to the meatloaf, and he kind of makes a face, but he continues and eats the entire patty of meatloaf. And then he goes up to her and pats her on the shoulder and says, "Honey, you shouldn't cook anymore." There are things that happen that you can get people to do things when they just refuse. And because they have lost their executive functioning, which is being able to put 2 and 2 together and make 4, they just can't do that. They know the 2 and 2, but just putting it together to make sense, they just can't do. But sometimes they can. And you never know when they are and when they aren't. The second, personal hygiene, is the next issue. And if you're sitting beside someone that smells, you do everything except to tell them, you smell, you need a shower. Although sometimes I have said, you need to take a shower. How long has it been? But with them, they don't get the gentle hints of putting out extra deodorant or things like that. So one of the ladies, her father, he was getting so right. They could not force him into the shower. She could not force him into the shower. The daughter couldn't. So it was a nice summer day, and she said, oh, Dad, let's go out and wash the cars. So they got on their swimsuits, and she went out, and they squirted each other with the hose, and they soaped up the sponge, and she was all over him, tossing the sponges at each other. They washed the car, but he also got his shower. We don't know why they are afraid to step into the shower or in the tub, and we don't know if it's because the spatial relationship that they feel they're going to step into a big hole. And sometimes if there's a glare on the floor, they're afraid to step over that. And sometimes at the nursing home, when they're in someone else's room and it's time to take the shower and they're not going to take the shower, oh, today is your pampering day. We're going to give you the best spa treatment. We're going to trim your nails. We're going to give you spa treatment. And they walk happily away. So there are ways of dealing with the Alzheimer's patient, and you pick your battles. One lady was so upset because her husband wore 3 shirts at one time. And I said, so what? She goes, well, he's got 3 shirts on. I'm going, so what? He doesn't have a problem with it. You're the one with the problem. Who has the problem? Well, what will the neighbors think? Who cares? So a couple things you need to know when you're dealing with an Alzheimer's patient is, so what? And who cares? Because most of the things, Richard in his book said, why are they so concerned about my personal hygiene? That is a low priority to me. Why is it such a high priority to them? And one lady, they were talking the other night at our support group, she will not take a bath, but she washes herself, because back in the olden days, that's what they did. And I'm going, well, she's still getting clean. And we just have this, we focus on things that before Alzheimer's, it didn't make a bit of difference. Paradoxically, the ability to remember hinges on the ability to forget. And when you're getting older and you forget something, people say, oh, they're losing their memory. When little kids forget, they say, oh, Mommy, I forgot. We don't think anything of it. But we talk behind our hand a person when they're older. And that's what's happened, things that made no difference before. Now, if you I know that all of us have lost our car keys, that we couldn't find them. If you have Alzheimer's, you might find them in the fishbowl. That would be unusual. I did a reality check the other night, and I acted just like, I had all my senses dulled just like the Alzheimer's patient, and I was acting just like the Alzheimer's patient. I could not do 5 simple little tasks. And I thought I was being very progressive, because when I saw clothes, I started folding the towels. That was not my job. I was supposed to be matching 6 pair of socks. And I thought, oh, gee, I'm really making progress. So when they put the ice cream in the refrigerator and not the freezer, congratulate them on putting it away. Madam Toastmaster.
Our second contestant, Christine Sullivan. Whitewater rafting, the trials and tribulations of a first-timer. Whitewater rafting, the trials and tribulations of a first-timer, Christine Sullivan.
Hi, everyone. I recently went whitewater rafting. I've been on this kick lately of trying to do new adventurous things, and I thought this would be absolutely perfect. It turns out we had a work event that was whitewater rafting. We had about 30 of us who signed up for it. And I've never, ever done anything like this before. I thought, I don't know what I'm in for, but I'm in for something. So I show up, learning intently, watching the instructor walk us through what we need to do, all the different commands, hoping I get everything straight. I get suited up, I get a helmet, I get a life jacket, which could also double for a corset, it's so tight. They said, oh, it'll loosen up when you get into the water. So we get into formation, divvy up. We have about 4 different boats, about 8 people per boat. And the guide, this is our first interaction with our guide for the event. And he's very direct. He wants to make sure we remember absolutely everything we learned during the training, because that's what whitewater rafting is about. Now, this is a team event through work. We are actually at a facility that is a man-made river, so I'm thinking, how dangerous can this be? We're not in the middle of nowhere, 30 miles from any civilization. I was wrong. Once we got suited up and were ready to go in, the guide said, "What kind of ride do you all want to have?" And some yahoo in my team yelled, "Fun!" So we got into the boat, and we were set in order based on preferences. Of course, the guide asked, first of all, "Who's left-handed?" And I raised my hand. He's like, "You have the best seat in the whole boat. You're front left." Whatever that means, I have no idea what I'm in for. So I actually get into the boat, and he's instructing us. We need to keep our feet positioned in such a way. One foot is front, the other foot is planted to the side. Okay, I have my feet in position. I'm not worried about it. I'm following directions. So we get into the boat. We get along. I have my oar, and he said, "You got to keep your hand on the tee of the oar. Don't let your hand get off the top. If you let go, I'm going to bop you on the head with my oar, because in a real situation, you need to make sure you have your hand on the oar at all times." Oh, okay. So we get going, and I'm paddling 2 forward, 3 behind, trying to keep up. We hit our first bit of turbulent water. He says to the whole team, "Lean left." The guy next to me leans so far left, he tips the boat. And I go, boom, right into the water. I'm sputtering. I have water up my nose. I'm hanging onto my oar for dear life. My glasses, of course, I took off prior to getting into the boat, but I have them on my person in my pocket. I can't see anything without my glasses. So I'm completely disoriented. I finally figure out where the boat is. And of course the guide yells, "Swimmer in the water!" Like it isn't known that one person in the boat is in the water. How humiliating. So he heaves me up like a fish out of water, grabs a hold of my life vest and goes, boom! And I flop into the boat. Of course, I made the mistake of actually grabbing the back of the boat. Not the front of the boat, where I'm actually in position to just hop into my seat. I'm in the back of the boat. So he says, "Just stand up and walk to your seat." I'm in an inflatable boat in turbulent water. That's not as easy as it sounds. So I developed this technique to plop from one section to the other on my butt to get to the very front of the boat. That wasn't very attractive, but it did the job. Once I got back into position, we were moving forward. We hit another patch of turbulent water. I'm going, I'm prepared for this. Boom, I'm right in the water, right again. I don't know what hit me, what happened, but luckily the guy sitting next to me in the front wound up in the water with me. It wasn't just me. So from there, I went ahead and tried to orient myself, keeping in mind I need to get to the front of the boat this time. So I was able to maneuver to the front of the boat and just someone heaved me into my position, and I didn't have to worry about walking in an inflatable boat. I'm thinking, oh, when is this going to be over? This is not the fun I had anticipated. From there, I get back in position. My feet are firmly planted. I'm thinking, I don't have a watch. How long is this event going to go on? He's like, just an hour and a half more to go. So I'm just trying to survive this. We hit one more patch of whitewater. I survived a couple of them. I kind of learned my lesson a little bit. But we survived until this huge wave. Now, obviously, the guide's idea of fun and my idea of fun are vastly different. Apparently, he took us on the intermediate course because the next huge whitewater area we hit, everyone but the guide and one person fell out of the boat. So I found myself in the water. I lost my oar. I'm trying to swim after my oar. Needless to say, we all finally found our way back into the boat. And after that, I learned my lesson. My feet were firmly planted. He said, "Get your bottom on the boat." My bottom hit the bottom of that boat every single time, and I stuck to the boat for the remainder of the trip. I like swimming, and I figured I'm a good swimmer. When I was actually in the boat and stayed in the boat, I like whitewater rafting. I think swimming and whitewater rafting should be mutually exclusive. That was not my experience. I'm glad I tried it. I knew it would be an experience. It's something I can check off my list and say I've done it. But I think I'm going to try things on land for a while now. Thank you very much.
Rick Davis. My golf career. My golf career, Rick Davis.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. My golf career. My sister from Seattle is coming to town, and she just married a golf nut 9 months ago. So what are we going to do? How are we going to entertain these folks when they're in town? Well, we're going to play golf. I've never played golf. I know exactly one word in golf speak: Tiger Woods. Everybody knows Tiger Woods, right? Well, not exactly one word. When I was in my younger days, when I was a Cub Scout leader, I actually took some of the Cub Scouts to the driving range, and we blasted off golf balls. So I know quite a bit about it. And golf is actually a pretty simple game. You use bent sticks to hit a hard ball down a tended lawn called a fairway. When you whack the ball onto another piece of lawn, even better tended, called a green, which is weird because all the lawns are green anyway. I don't know why they call it a green. And the idea is to tap the hard ball into a hole called the cup. You try to miss the sand bunkers, the water hazards, and the woods. And that's how Tiger Woods does it, right? Easy, no big deal. Well, I'm a natural athlete. You can probably tell that. But I can see that I could probably learn a few things. So I should probably take some lessons. And since we're going to do this together, maybe Sharon should take lessons, my wife, too. She's the one that probably needs the lessons. Like I say, I'm a natural athlete. Probably need some, to learn about things like, etiquette, how to drive the cart, how to find the first tee. That'd probably be helpful. And, of course, which end of the stick you use to hit the ball. So I'd look into some lessons, and it turns out that a PGA teaching pro charges anywhere from $50 to $100 an hour. It's a little bit spendy. So it turns out that if we want to turn pro by the end of the summer, it's going to cost us a lot of money. But it turns out the Communiversity offers 7 classes, hour-and-a-half classes, for $99 a piece. Hey, that sounds great. So we both sign up, and of course this is my idea of a golf course. Okay, so our instructor is Mike. And the first class we learn the grip. Golf has a certain grip, and it's incredibly, if you follow the directions of a pro, there's no way you can hold on to this, because they want you to hold it loose, they want you to hold it this way, they want you to cover your fingers, and so what you end up doing is sort of something like this, and that's your grip. And hopefully the club doesn't fly out and hit somebody when you take a swing at it. So the first thing we learn about V's and interlocks, and of course it helps to be double jointed, it's painful, it doesn't feel natural at all. And the first thing we do is he gives us this club that has a P on it. All the other ones have numbers on them. This one has a P on it, and that stands for pitching wedge. Now, I don't know what baseball has to do with golf, but this is a pitching wedge. And so it's also called a chipping wedge. Every golf club has about 3 names, and if you don't know the names, you can't get the right golf club for some reason. Okay, so you learn to chip That's the first thing you learn, is chipping the ball. You chip, you chip, you chip. Well, the second class, we actually got to take the ball out and whack it. When you really whack it with a pitching wedge, man, it flies. It's beautiful. But straight is another problem. The other 5 classes are a blur. Somewhere along the line, we learned about irons. This is an iron, which are flat. We learned about woods, which of course are not made of wood, they're made of iron. And these are the ones with a big bulbous top like this. Looks like something Mickey Mouse came up with. We learned about the putter. The putter is sort of a strange looking beast, but it's used to whack the ball into the hole, the last club that you use before you whack it in the hole. And so the last few classes, the last few hours of the class, last hour of the class, we actually played 2 holes. And my ball clearly was defective. This is the ball I used. It was clearly defective because it did not stay on the lawn. It spent a lot of time in the woods. So brother and sister arrived, and I told them my tale of woe, and they said, what you need is you need a special club. This is called a medicus. And what is a medicus for? A medicus is to teach you how to swing properly. I don't know how a hinged club. Look at the DVD. Okay, so there's a DVD. You have to learn some more. But to make matters worse, we decided to go out golfing. And we golfed Sunday, because they're golf nuts. We golfed Sunday at a par 3 course, which wasn't too bad. We golfed Monday at the Vineyard, which was horrible because every water hazard ate a ball. And I spent a lot of time in the woods. Luckily, there's no poison ivy that I could find. I probably would have found it. It was a relatively fun outing. It was a beautiful day, but it was not a good golf day for me. And then my brother-in-law and sister did the worst thing that they could do. They bought us golf clubs. They bought my wife and I both a set of golf clubs. So now we're committed. Now we have to really play. Turned out on Thursday we were going to go do another par 3 course, and it rained. And it saved our lives because we didn't have to go golfing. But we ended up going to the movies. And we were looking for a nice movie that everybody would enjoy. We ended up going and seeing Mamma Mia. And Mamma Mia, Meryl Streep, Pierce Brosnan are the stars of it. Mamma Mia, Meryl Streep does a great job singing. Pierce Brosnan, on the other hand, should not quit his day job. And I totally agree. That's probably my golfing career. Madam Toastmaster.
Rick Barron. Why God? Why God? Rick Barron.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and our studio audience. If you could ask God one question, what would it be? Would you want some information about your past? Or maybe some insights about your future? My question would go like this. Cylindrical shaped mammals, covered in fur, with small ears and eyes that aren't visible, that tunnel underground, eating earthworms like children eat Halloween candy. What possible purpose do ground moles serve? I can see it now. On the 7th day, God was reflecting back on his accomplishments, thinking, oops, a few too many worms. I think I'll create a mammal that can tunnel faster than a human can push a shovel into the ground to eat the excess. Did you know that there are 3 subfamilies, 7 tribes, and 17 genres in the mole family? Why so many worm eaters, God? The star-nosed mole can detect, catch, and eat food faster than the human eye can detect. I thought that title was reserved for wives who sneak food off their husbands' plates. Moles are a protected species in Germany and can only be hunted by permit. A permit to hunt a mole? Maybe mosquitoes should hire the same lawyer. Hello, my name is Rick, and I have a problem with moles. No, duh! Do you recall the movie Caddyshack? You know, the one where Bill Murray blows up the entire golf course trying to eliminate the dancing gopher? I haven't tried blowing them up yet, but I have tried a few interesting strategies to keep the moles from dancing in my yard. Let's explore a few. The first strategy was not my own. My wife would say, "They were here first. They deserve a home too. Why can't you just accept them and learn to enjoy their contribution?" Contribution? Ankle twisting tunnels all over the yard, enough molehills dotting the landscape to look like the Oklahoma prairie? I don't think so, not in my yard, honey. For guidance on my second strategy, I went to the local home improvement store. You know, the one where the knowledgeable text messaging teen was working the lawn and garden center. They led me to a host of pills, potions, and sprays. Use this one to make their food taste bitter. Do worms really taste sweet? Use this one to make their tunnels stink. Won't they just dig a new tunnel to get away from the stench? Buy this one to poison them. A slow, painful death. Oh, my wife won't allow that one. Guess what? Mixing them all together did not have the desired effect. It was time for drastic measures. I was losing my war on moles. The final strategy came to me while preparing to run the outflow from our downspouts underground. Why not dig a trench all the way around the yard and then line it with aluminum flashing? Dig through that, you furry worm-eating mammal! I rented a 900-pound trencher that could dig a 4-inch wide trench 2 feet deep at the push of a button. Yeah, right. That thing would dig up rocks and bricks and all the McDonald's wrappers that were buried by the construction crew 25 years ago. That stuff never decomposes. It took me 2 days to dig the trenches for my underground mole barrier, but it took me months to put the flashing in place, to fill the trenches, and to restore my yard. I comforted myself while working those back-breaking weekends, knowing that once my mole barrier was complete, I could sit back, relax, and enjoy mole-free days watching the grass grow. Wait, what's that over there? Another molehill? What happened? Wait a minute. What I really did was dig a protective barrier all the way around the moles already in my yard. I purchased some scissor traps and went to work setting them in their freshly dug tunnels. The traps had to be set just right, or snap, they'd take my finger off. You know what? Those worm-eating, tunnel-raising, molehill creators often danced right around the traps. How could they know they were there? Could they smell the cold, spring-loaded steel waiting for them up ahead? Today, we have an unspoken agreement. If the moles stay on their side of the barrier, I'll consider not coming onto their side with my traps. 17 genres of moles. Why, God, are there really too many worms? Thank you for the opportunity to compete. You've been a wonderful audience.
Steve Ahrenholz, do I have children? Do I have children? Steve Ahrenholz.
Do I have children? Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests watching in at home. My children are exceptional, but not in the way that you're necessarily thinking. My children are fighting 1 minute, and the next minute they are fussing all over each other. It doesn't make any sense. They run when my wife and I come home to see who can knock whom out of the way first when they want to greet Mom and Dad. They don't pick up after themselves, and the more disgusting something can be, the better. Just let someone call on the phone. It doesn't matter where they are in the house. Wham! They're right there by your side, just fighting away the entire time. And if I'm sitting down, well, the fight just goes onto my lap. My children are exceptional. Let me introduce you to them. This is Pansy, our eldest, and this is Tater, the baby. They have an air-conditioned doghouse that I get to make mortgage payments on. We keep them stocked in Nyla bones and dog toys. And we often have to buy 2 of any one thing. And even then, Tater's likely to take Pansy's and fight with her over it while he is laying on top of his. I would really like for them to get a job testing dog toys. You know that little tag that comes on dog toys when you buy them at the store, and it says if the toy becomes damaged or torn, you need to throw them away, take them away from the dog? These guys wouldn't have any toys after 30 minutes. I brought along an example of 2 of theirs. This one is, you know, a little bit worn. I think it's going for pierced ears look, and has a blown out butt. This one has a stuffing hemorrhage on the side, and the tail is in the process of being removed. Tater is the one that tends to take the tails off, and I think that's because he doesn't have more than just a little apostrophe for a tail. So, by George, those toys are not going to have more tail than he has. Well, our children don't ask for things like iPods or the latest thing that their friend had gotten, or more minutes every month for text messaging. They don't need a college fund. Well, actually, Pansy is our Canine Good Citizen Scholar. Now, Tater, he could use some remedial Canine Good Citizen classes because he has not realized that sitting quietly with the instructor while we walk away is not equivalent to jumping all over the instructor and licking wildly. But then, we've known for some time that Tater really can't hold his liquor, so we have yet to resolve that problem. Another thing that they won't ask to do is to drive the car. And I am thankful for that because I can just imagine what it would be like to have Tater behind the wheel going through rush hour traffic in Chicago. Now, when company comes over, they do get excited. But if Tater gets too carried away, he goes into his kennel. Or, as Pansy likes to think of it, Tater goes in the brig. And then you should just see what goes on. Tater's in his kennel, and Pansy will take a toy that Tater has just been playing with, or taunting her with, or maybe shoving her around the house with it, and trots back and forth in front of the kennel. And if Tater doesn't see that and start getting upset, it means we have to do it more. And of course, if Tater gets yelled at, yes, that is success. Well, some of our friends wonder, how in the world do we deal with two hyperactive Boston Terriers? And truthfully, we do wonder ourselves sometimes, why did we think this was a good idea to have two dogs? But I always like to think of the human-animal bond, and I have to say, no matter what kind of a day I've had, when I come home, they are so excited to see you. It really is something nice to come home to at the end of the day. And, of course, they're both there right away to see you, and either Pansy has that little corkscrew tail wiggling, or Tater, with his little apostrophe and the whole hind end wiggles with it, is just overjoyed to see you. If I'm feeling down, they seem to know it. They maybe want to go for a walk, or we'll just play fetch with one of the toys. But they remind me that it's the simple things in life that I really need to appreciate. And sometimes they bring us back around to what is really important. I had wanted a dog for a long time when I was growing up, and it took a while for my mother to get one for me. But now I have two of them, and I wanted to share a quote from the U.S. humorous writer Robert Benchley. He told us, "A dog teaches a boy fidelity, perseverance, and to turn around 3 times before lying down." And you know, it's true. They don't turn around 2 times. They don't turn around 4 times. It's 3 times. Madam Toastmaster?
We will next have a table topics contest, and a table topics contest is a 1 to 2 minute impromptu answer to a particular question that the Toastmaster gives to each of the contestants. Each contestant gets exactly the same question, so of course we don't want them all in the room. In the case of our humorous speech, that everybody could sit in the room, listen to everyone else's speeches, but we don't want anyone to get any kind of advantage. So in this particular contest, all of the contestants leave the room except for the person who is answering the question. And as each person comes in and answers a question, they can sit down, and then they can stay because obviously they've answered the question. And the next person, they can hear everybody who is after them. Pity the number 5 person or the number 6 person who does not have an opportunity to hear everyone else. Because just because you think you gave a brilliant answer doesn't mean it is as brilliant as someone else's. In table topics, the idea is to get the best possible answer to that question between 1 minute and 2 minutes. Think of all the times you've been called on by your boss to answer a question in front of others, and you're thinking, did I sound like a total idiot? Well, I usually do. So that table topics have really helped me. But so I at least do not look like a frightened deer when someone asks me a question. Our first contestant is Carol Kormelink. I will read this question twice. William Shakespeare died in 1616. Why do we make high school students study Shakespeare? William Shakespeare died in 1616. Why do we make high school students study Shakespeare? Carol Kormelink.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, for that wonderful question. That is a question that I have wondered, why did they study Shakespeare? And I did not take senior English because I did not want to study Shakespeare. In the meantime, when I'm looking at different quotes, I didn't realize how brilliant Shakespeare was. A lot of the things that we use today came from Shakespeare. Wish I could think of one of them right now, but I can't think. I just realized as I was looking things up on the internet that came from one of the Shakespeare plays. And I did know about, is that Lady Macbeth, Out, Out, Damn Spot? I did remember that one from high school. But Shakespeare was not one of my favorites back then, and I do go to the Shakespeare Theater, but funny, they do not do Shakespeare. They do other plays at the Shakespeare Theater. As Verna and I know that we've gone to the Shakespeare Theater, and it was not a Shakespeare play. But I have no good clue on why the the high school students have to learn from this old guy, except that he did have a lot of good ideas. Madam Toastmaster.
Our second contestant, Don Wess. Don Wess. I will read the question twice. William Shakespeare died in 1616. Why do we make high school students study Shakespeare? William Shakespeare died in 1616. Why do we make high school students study Shakespeare? Don Wess.
Thank you, Ms. Toastmaster. Greetings, everyone. The question involves William Shakespeare. I think he was a writer, and he lived around the year 1660. That was a long time ago. So my job here today is to try to think of reasons why we should go back 300 or 400 years and study about a person who lived way back in those days. We all know that William Shakespeare is a very popular writer. He still draws a lot of attention and gets a lot of acclamation for his accomplishments way back in those days. Let's just say it was the genius of the man that has carried him through all these centuries so that we still remember him today. And perhaps we too will do something in our lives so that 300 or 400 years from now, people will remember us. Thank you.
Our third contestant is Rick Davis. Rick, I will read this question twice. William Shakespeare died in 1616. Why do we make high school students study Shakespeare? William Shakespeare died in 1616. Why do we make high school students study Shakespeare? Rick Davis.
Thank you, Madam Tabletopics Master, Toastmaster. Why do we study old dead people? Why do we study people like Shakespeare? And I think the answer is that the stories that Shakespeare developed and wrote over the course of his life, his career, are stories that we relate to ourselves, relate to today. they're as fresh as today. And in fact, if you look at a lot of the movies that are out today, a lot of them are based on Shakespearean themes. Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, all these different sorts of things. So the same kind of questions that we were asking, that Shakespeare was asking, we're asking today. And I know that kids hate it because there's a lot of antique language that you have to get yourself around. There's a lot of terms that we don't use on a daily basis. But on the other hand, it's kind of fun. It gives us gives us some continuity with our parents and our grandparents and other people that have read these sorts of things. And to be an educated person today, you probably need to read old dead people. Madam Tabletopics Master.
Our fourth contestant is Christine Sullivan. I will read the question twice. William Shakespeare died in 1616. Why do we make high school students study Shakespeare? William Shakespeare died in 1616. Why do we make high school students study Shakespeare? Christine Sullivan.
Thank you. That's a very good question. Shakespeare is known for his prose, his plays, his comedies, and his tragedies. We study Shakespeare because that's where our origins are. It is the origins of the English language. It teaches us where we've been, what the story was, but the themes in Shakespeare remain the same. The uplifting feeling of falling in love, of getting the unattainable, the tragedy of losing something beloved. Those themes are ever present in today's society and will be in the future as well. Shakespeare teaches us how we can learn about our history, learn about the human condition, and how we can approach and solve those hurdles that come across our road, and how we can overcome those and move on. Shakespeare is not for everyone. I understand that, but it has a resonance, I think, in today's society, simply because of the story. The language in and of itself can be difficult, but it is something that teaches us how things were, how things flow together, and the poetry of language. Thank you.
Our next contestant, Steve Ahrenholz. I will read the question twice. William Shakespeare died in 1616. Why do we make high school students study Shakespeare? William Shakespeare died in 1616. Why do we make high school students study Shakespeare? Steve Ahrenholz.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests that are looking in from home. Why do we make high school students study Shakespeare? I have to think about that for a moment because I'm trying to remember what I had in high school as far as studying Shakespeare. I think that this question actually has a more global perspective to it because most teenagers will challenge the instructors as to why they're having to learn whatever it is they don't want to learn. And what is really going on is trying to get these future adults to think. Now, I don't have children of my own, but I have nephews that are in those treacherous teen years, 2 13-year-olds and a 16-year-old. And part of what you're trying to do is get them to think. And I think that that's one of the things that's behind having them learn Shakespeare. This is also why we teach them some of the other things about civics and our political system and economics. I've read something recently about how economically challenged a lot of young people are as far as managing their money. So my perspective is that why we subject them to, if you will, Shakespeare, is because part of what we're trying to do is teach them to think, to question, and to also appreciate some of the profound thinkers and writers that we have in our past. Madam Tabletopics Master?
Toastmaster contests to Toastmasters are a lot like series in golf or baseball or football. We're constantly competing on a bi-yearly basis. We want to win contests, not for any other reason than just to see if we could do it. It's the same as when you're playing golf and you actually beat somebody, the first time you beat somebody playing golf. Well, when you have a contest, it may be the first time that you placed 1, 2, or 3. It can be really exciting. Or just the mere thrill of living through the experience of the contest is enough for most of us. But it's the getting up here, being in public, speaking. It is so important. And you know what? The best part? If you're a contestant, your neighbors get to watch you on television. You don't get to do that normally when you play golf. Now, the really exciting time for all of our contestants, the awarding of first and second and third in our contest. And I am calling now upon Laura Lee Gaither, who is our contest chair, and our president, Darren Henderson.
First, we'll announce the winners of our Club Humorous Speech Contest. And of course, the winners of the contest will represent the TV Toastmasters Club in the Area 53 contest, and we'll give more details on that later. Third place winner in the Humorous Speech Contest was Rick Davis. Rick. Our second place winner, and of course, if our first place winner is not able to attend the contest, we would ask that our second place winner attend and represent the club. But our second place winner is Steve Ahrenholz. Thank you. Thank you. And our first place winner, and I'll say that hopefully this award makes the entire process and trip and trial worth the effort, but our first place winner is Rick Barron. So when you go home, thank the moles for us.
I will do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, our Tabletopics contest. The third place winner in our Tabletopics contest was Rick Davis. That's Rick. Our second place winner, Christine Sullivan. Just so you know, this is Christine's second Toastmasters meeting.
Wow.
And our first place winner and representing TV Toastmasters in the Area 53 contest, Steve Ahrenholz.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just to give a couple quick comments, the Area 53 contest will be, and we have flyers off to the side, will be Tuesday, September 23rd at 6 p.m., and it will be at the Chase Towers at 8044 Montgomery Road. And that's right down the street from the Kenwood Town Center, a place my wife knows very well. And I'd like to take a second to thank a couple of people. You know, for most of us, this was a very enjoyable experience, and we had a lot of fun, but there are a couple of people who just really worked their butts off today. First of all, our Chief Judge, John Humpert. Second, our Toastmaster, Sheila Baker. And finally, our contest chair, Laura Lee Gayfield. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'd like a few closing comments from our contest chair, Laura Lee Gayfield.
Contest time is not only a great opportunity for our members to polish up their speaking skills and have the different experience of speaking in the contest setting as opposed to our usual regular meeting setting. It is a little bit different. What you saw on TV today was a little different, but it was also a bit different, especially on my end, trying to coordinate all the behind-the-scenes people that we saw here, but the TV audience didn't get to see. So I would like to thank several people, and if we could just have one great big applause at the end, that would be great. Of course, the two people who had the most responsibility today, our Chief Judge, John Humpert, and our Toastmaster today, Sheila Baker. I'd like to thank our judges today, Verna Gibson, Mary Arms, Lisa Rittberger, who's also a guest, Jim Wessels, a guest, Jerome Magnan, and Gordon Kelly. Our Sergeant at Arms today, the Door Watchers. Helen Gilbert, a guest, Rick Barron, doing double duty, contestant also. Our timers for our contestants to watch, Tiffany Everett and Darren Henderson. Our counters, Linda Ketchum and Dilip, whose last name I kind of forgot. Sorry. So thank you very much, members, and for our guests that we had who helped fill in the roles of our meeting today. Thank you. Yay! Big round of applause. We also have several Toastmaster dignitaries with us today. Tiffany Everett, our Area 53 governor. Linda Ketchum, the Area 57 governor. John Humpert is also the immediate past Western Division governor. Carol Kormelink, immediate past Area 53 governor. I'm the immediate past Area 54 governor, and Joe Swirling has held past area governor positions before, and he is a guest as well today. So thank you very much for coming to visit TV Toastmasters, whether you had to be here voluntarily or not. Thank you very much for a wonderful contest, and now I'll hand the meeting back over to our president to close and adjourn the meeting today. Thank you.
This was a fantastic contest. In addition to all the people who helped out with the contest and the participants, I'd also like to thank our camera people, as well as our director, Nikki Bishop. As Rick Davis said, this was a great way to spend a Saturday morning. I think you would all agree. So the third Saturday next month, please come down and join us, 9:30 a.m., Anderson Center. Once again, a fantastic contest. Thanks to all the contestants and all the judges and everyone else who participated. With that, I will close the TV Toastmasters 9523 is closed.